All right, welcome to the Sandy 100 YouTube channel. As promised, this is a video on how to install the NAV Delete for the 2003 Land Cruiser. Now, the 2003 is a little different than 2004 through the end of the LC100 line. There's a couple different connectors on the back, so the things you find online and on I Hate Mud forum are going to be a little different, although Jerry B, thank you, got all the harnesses and pinouts posted on there for the 2003. Now this car has the aftermarket Tase system that the previous owner put in. In my opinion, this thing is an absolute piece of garbage, especially if you put the tire pressure monitoring system in it. It is very annoying. It keeps popping up, especially if you off-road. This is not the unit for you, and especially do not get the TPMS system, because it'll constantly be going off. It will take over your screen every 30 seconds, and you push a button and it'll go right to the tire pressure sensors. It's very annoying. Also, if you're an iPhone owner, you can't modify this stereo. You have to do it with an Android phone, and there's so many settings on here that are pretty useless. And the stereo output on this is just absolutely terrible. My stereo guys replaced all the speakers in it after I bought it because 3 of the 4 main speakers were blown, and the sound still is garbage, and it's coming out of the head unit. So this will be replaced, so that's why I'm here. So anyway, wanted to kind of show you how to get started. Now, a lot of things in this car are going to be clipped in with little plastic clips, which is not a big deal. It's made to be taken out and put back in, but you got to do it kind of gently so you don't break the clips, especially since these cars are 20 plus years old. You got to be gentle because you can't find parts. But as you can see here up in the corners, they had cut this of the original dash portion to put this Tase in here. So I don't even know what's behind here. I have not opened it up yet. I wanted to show you guys what's behind here, but I'm going to take this out and show you the back of this. I have a factory unit that was included when I bought the car, and then I have this harnesses that I'm going to make and show you guys how to make them, because they're a little different for the 2003, but they're not that much different for any of the other ones. I'm trying to take the mystery out of it. I'm also trying to learn as I go. So if you trolls out there want to say I'm doing something wrong, yeah, I'm probably going to do something wrong. That's fine, whatever. We're all here to learn. We're all here to get better. We're all here to figure out this problem, because this is, in my opinion, a big miss by Toyota, putting all their climate controls in the head unit. I used to have a 2006 Highlander, and it was the same thing, and it was absolute trash. Their navigation was trash, and you couldn't put a new stereo in that without getting creative like this. So anyway, without further ado, we're just going to pop these guys off of here. I've got my little pry tools. Not that big a deal. Just want to be very cautious, and you don't want to break any of these things because they've already kind of broke them to put this Tase unit in here. So we're just going to pull off these side things. Not too big a deal, but you just want to be cautious that you don't break any of these clips. Or there we go. Okay, that one came out pretty easily, and it's just held on by one clip there. So we're just going to put this down to the side for now, and we're going to pop this other one off of here. It's pretty simple. And so I have got the NAV Delete parts from a guy in Pakistan named Shahab. Good dude, bought 2 sets from him. I'm always like, 1 is none and 2 is 1. So yeah, so I bought extras, although one's a right-hand drive, one's a left-hand drive. I have the aftermarket brackets, so it's getting pretty dark here, and unfortunately I don't have a lot of light in here, but it's just too hot otherwise. But so I'll try to show it with my flashlight. You guys should be able to get this far if you're handy at all. There's a bolt up here, there's a bolt down here, there's a bolt over here, and a bolt over here, and you can pop pretty much this whole thing out. So we're going to do that right now. Yeah, sorry, it's just too dang hot today. So there's one bolt. There's 2 bolts. With my luck, I'll drop one down here and never find it again. That's just the nature of the beast. I highly recommend Milwaukee Tools. I don't work for them, but my best friend from high school's a bigwig with their company, and I only buy Milwaukee Tools if I can because they are very high quality, and I like to support his company. So that should be pretty much it for pulling this out. Might have some clips on it. You can see it's coming out. See, there you go, right there. Now to get this out, we're going to have to put this, move the gear shift. So if you can see that, we're going to need the keys for that. I have the keys in my pocket. And there's a little pop here that I had actually was missing when I bought the car. I had to get that over at Toyota, this little plastic piece here that should pop out if I can get this plastic piece in here. It's just a little too wide, so I'm sure the key should work, but it's brand new, so it's not worn it at all. Let's see if I can try something. There we go, that key will work. There we go, it should be coming out here in a second. There we go. All right, so that's just a little piece, a couple bucks at Toyota. If you don't have it, not a big deal. So now we should be able to push this button down and move. I'm going to put the car in park. Put the parking brake on. And we're going to move this into, move it down here. All right, and we're going to hopefully take this off. See how this comes out here. Yeah, as you can see, it's a big jumbled mess up here of wires. So that's not going to be too great. So I'm going to have to figure out all that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of disrupt all this stuff and take it back to stock as best I can and see where the original cables are. I can already see some of the original ones there. So those are out of the back of this, which is this bracket here is the original Toyota. Hopefully you can see that. And this is the Tase system, which mounts onto that bracket. So these brackets are good for the nav. I have the aftermarket bracket, or the non-nav brackets that Shahab from Pakistan included in the thing. If you need the stuff to do this, I would highly recommend getting a hold of him. He's on the 100 group on Facebook all the time, and you can maybe get him on I Hate Mud, but he is a legit dude. He even sent me a pretty cool little scarf from Pakistan in my second order. So anyway, that you can see what a jumbled mess this is. So I've got to go through all this and figure it out. So I will, once I get it back to some sort of semblance of stock, I will come back and show you what cables we need to use and go from there. I've taken out the Tase system as best I could. I had my stereo guys rewire some stuff, so I'm not going to mess with that. That's kind of off to the side, and a bunch of camera stuff. And then there's what's left of the Tase wiring. I don't want to disconnect that quite yet. So all I really care about is the bundle of factory wires here. As you can see on this one here, they had actually tapped that one, cut it, and they powered some cameras off that, so I'm gonna have to redo that. But overall, that's good. I was worried that they cut this factory harness and it was going to be an absolute disaster trying to figure this out. So luckily all the connectors are intact, and now I can trace what I need to use to make this all work. But before we go inside, we have to take a look at the different connectors, and we need to label the ones we're going to use. So I've taken this is the original factory nav system that luckily the previous owner included in the car. So there's some connectors on the back of here for the 2003. There's 4 of them. There could be 3 depending on your model. Mine has 4. So we're going to need these 2. These 2 are not being used, but this one we're going to take a couple wires off of, and the M8 here we're going to take a couple wires off of. So we need to find those plugs. Unfortunately, there's no harness to take the factory plugs and make them into here. Nobody could find the connectors, at least Jerry couldn't. I looked on a couple different sites, I couldn't. So maybe if I cannibalize some of the stuff that's with this Tase system, I can make it work. But I just have to cut some of these wires and run them into an M9 connector, which goes on a new one. So let's see if we can figure this out here. And we're going to label them when we do figure it out. So we can get this propped up here. This one looks like it might go in here. Nope. This one's got a cut on it, so I'm gonna guess that this is one of the ones that we used. Yep. Okay. That one is the M8. So we're gonna label that M8. That way we know that we gotta take some cables off of this guy. M8. Okay, that is one we need. Good to go. Okay, so now we need to find the M5. It's probably gonna be right around there. All right, that's the M6. We don't need it, but we're gonna label it in case in the future we ever need it. We know which one's which. M6. All right. So we've got two of those. This one looks like it might be a winner for the M5. Let's see. And it is. Okay, cool. So that's gonna be the M5. We're gonna label that guy M5. Okay. Let's do it on the side too, because I kind of messed up that 5. M5. Okay, good. So that's good. We got the two that we need, the M5 and the M8. Those are the ones we need for that. And then, so since we don't need the other ones, we are going to look at the, so here's the aftermarket, or not the aftermarket, the non-nav heater controls that I got from the guy in Pakistan. So there's 3 connectors on here. I've labeled them. They're the A47, A46, and A45, and those will correspond with the pinouts. So this one is going to have a 2-prong pinout, 2-prong adapter that goes out. So we'll have to make that. We have the pigtails that came with this to start that. And then there's one extra wire that comes off the M9, which is going to come down, and that's going to go into spot 1 over here. I'll show you that when we get inside. And there's going to be 2 yellow wires that come off the M9. So there'll be 3 wires that come off the M9 when I show you inside, when I make the harness, that are separate wires. They won't be part of the harness. So let's find we need to find these 3, the A47, A46, and A45. So I'm going to guess that these are right in the same thing, and that's great. That was the A45. That's pretty easy to find. So that one's important. Not really anywhere to write on there, so I'll have to label that. Let's label this A45, and that's terrible, but at least I know it's the same. It's a 40-pin conductor, so that should be pretty easy to find. It's the only one there. So now we need the A46 and the A45, and I'm gonna guess these are right here, right next to it. That's the A46, which is great. There's no changes of that one. That's gonna be a direct plug into this. So that's an easy one. No changes needed for that one. So that's A46. That's easy. All right, the A47 is probably this one right here, I would imagine, since it's right next door. And if it goes in, that's going to be the one we need to change a little bit. It is the A47. Okay, cool, good guess. Yay me. A47. Okay, so all the you might have seen some of the other ones where they label all this stuff A, B, C, D, whatever. On this diagram for the 2004, they just have the specific connectors. So we're going to need the M5. I'm sorry, we're not going to need the M5. We will need the M5 and the M8. We won't need the M6 or M7. Those just go away. So here's the A46, A47, and A45. All these set up here. That's pretty easy. These 2 are the other ones. Those are going to be the M6, M7, which we're not going to use. I can tell just by looking at them. This one's going to be the M7. Useless. And this other one right here, a little bigger, it's the M6. So those 2 we can eventually lash together and get them out of the way. So we can actually try to put these 2 out of the way now, just to get them out of the way. This one's already back behind here, so we'll try to put that one back behind here. Cool. So as you can see, there's 5 connectors here that we're going to need. That's going to give us the controls for the non-nav. So there's going to be one harness that's going to hook into here. and I'll show you how that all works. And then these two are going to have cables coming off to the M9, which is a new connector, which you can get on Alibaba. Luckily, somebody online decided to hit me up and said they had a couple extra, and they sent them to me. So I've already put one of the pink wire on there that we're supposed to put, and I'll show you that inside. If you follow the gear list that Jerry provided, it's pretty easy. You're probably going to end up buying more than you need, because I didn't really know what I was looking at until I got my car back. So here we go. This is what we're going to start doing, and so we're in pretty good shape right now. Okay, one last thing we got to do is when we use this cable, there's going to be an out to this, and then it's the C28, which is a connector you need to buy, and that's going to go to one of these cables. I think it's on this one here. This only makes sense, and I think it might be this one here that the thing goes into. Yep, it goes into this one. So this is the C28 that it's got to connect to. You're going to run some wires into this guy, and this is going to plug into this guy. So I want to make sure that we label this, because this is where when we make a harness, it's going to come out of this A45, and it's going to split and also go into this guy. So there's a couple cables that go in here, a couple cables that go in here. So we want to label that right now while we have it here. And just let me make sure I got it. Yep, okay, so that's going to be the C28. That's the other end of the bottom harness. There's two harnesses you need to make. There's one that comes off the M9. That's going to go to a couple places, and then this is the one that we're trying to figure out. So we just figured that out. So it'll all make sense once we start making the things, but we're going to have to splice off of these two guys and come into the M9, which is the other one. But this one, so it's going to be this one. That one's going to come on, and this one. And it's going to split off of these two, and it's going to go into the back of this one in the new radio, or the new climate control. All right, we're back at the workbench, otherwise known as a kitchen table, and I want to show you what we're going to do here basically. So here's the A45 connector that came out of the non-nav controllers. Okay, that comes out the back here, A45. It's going to go right in there. Okay, so we're going to use that to build a harness, and that's going to go into the C28, which we just found outside, and the A45, and all those pinouts are there. This one actually you have to be a little funky with, because this is an A45, and as you can see, it's got these little things on here. You could push the connectors right on here, but it's not really as stable. So you got to get the other connector, and basically I had to trim off, if you can see that, there's a little tab here and a little tab here, doesn't matter, just so this can fit on here, and then it actually snaps. So it's somewhat sturdy. I have some shrink wrap that I'll be able to put over the top of it, but it's two pieces, and that's going to come out of here, so it allows the one like this from the car, this one's going to go right into there. So that'll be part of our harness, jumper harness. So we're going to use these three pieces. This we can all do here. The one we can't is the M9. And I want to show you a little difference here. If you were going to use a 2004 or later, you would do kind of the same thing with this newer M5 connector. This actually comes where these things are curved, so I just trimmed them off before I really knew what I was doing here. So we don't really need this. We're not going to be using this, which is fine. It's kind of a weird setup, but it seems to work, and it's basically the same thing if I can get it into here. This goes into the new, if you have a 2004 or later Land Cruiser 100 series, this is what you want to go out to, but we are not using that, so we're going to set that to the side. And this is the M9 cable. This goes right into the back of, if you can see, the security and the clock and all that right down here. You can see in the back here, it's going to go right into this M9 connector here. Now, when I got it from Pakistan, it didn't have a legit M9 connector. So luckily, somebody on here sent me a couple months ago. So that's cool. So I had a couple. But you can 3D print these. I'll include the file in the listing, and also you can buy them on Alibaba, and I'll put the link down there as well. So you can buy these. They're still able to be bought, and you can use them. So you're going to need one of those. Now, if we look at this is the 2003 Land Cruiser M9 connection. So this is going to be a little different. Remember when we found the the M8 and M5 out in the car, and we need to use those. So we can't make a straight jumper into those because nobody can find the connections for those. So we're gonna have to just cut those and then wire those up into here. So it's not a big deal. You have the pins. If you follow what you need, there are special M9 pins for this, and then there's different pins for this guy. So I'll show you that a little later, but we can make this. But this involves us going out to the car. And if you can see here, I'll put this up on the screen, but if you can see, the M8 comes over to the middle of the top one here, and it shows you all the pins that need to go into the M9 connector. This up here, do not look at the color of the wires because it's not going to matter. This is for the 2004 and later. This is solely for the 2003, so you just want to follow the arrows. Just from my understanding. I've been poring over this, looking at this for a long time, and I hope to get it right. So from the M5 connector, all we're going to be using is number 7, and that's fine. And we're just going to go into number 14 there, which is easy to do. So we're going to do that. You know, if you have a 2004 later, you're going to have yours is going to look a little like this. So you're still going to have these wires coming off. One pink wire, as you see here, is going to go into the A47, which is fine. Here's the M9. The M9 is right here, and you have these 2 yellow wires. Now I found out where that was. I looked at the stuff again. Apparently these yellow wires go under the front seat, so that's going to be quite a run, so we'll have to figure that out. And then if you have the 2004 or later, you're just going to go to this M5, which is this guy here. That would be into there. It's just done. So we don't need that. So these are going to be just wires coming in. We're not going to have a connector on that end, but we will have on that end, and we'll just have a bunch of wires coming off that we'll have to splice in. That's okay. It's not that, doesn't look that hard. It's very intimidating, I know. I've been poring over this all week, and it's a little frustrating. Now, I will say, he does recommend this wire cutters or wire crimpers, and you need those for the little connectors that are going to go on the end of here. I did that on here, and you're going to mostly use the C and sometimes the D. But you can get this on eBay. I'll put a link to it. They say it's the same as the Sargent. It's not name brand Sargent. It's a rip-off Sargent, but it's fine. It's cheaper. The Sargent one is like 70 bucks or something. This one is only like 20 or something. But it absolutely works, and you absolutely need this to crimp down these connectors that we'll be going through in a little while. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start by making this this harness here. This is the bottom harness, and then we'll worry about this one. We'll have to go out to the car and do all that nonsense out there, but this one we can make right now. So come along with me. We're going to figure this out, and we're going to splice this together, and we're just going to follow pin diagrams and go from there. So hopefully I can take some of the mystery out of it. Now again, I am not a professional. I will probably mess this up, but hopefully not. I'm going to try to take my time, and we'll go step by step. It may be a little tedious, it may be a little boring, you'll probably get sick of me talking, but I know a lot of you out there are waiting for this video, and I want to be as thorough and detailed as possible. So we're going to go through that here in a minute. So give me a break. Come along with me. We'll learn this together, and hopefully when you do it, this will make it super, super easy. That's the plan. All right, so we have our A45 wiring harness. I wasn't able to get this to split in half, and it doesn't look like it does, and I'm not going to be able to pull the wires out of here. I bought this terminal tool kit, complete piece of shit. Don't waste your money. Wasn't able to pull any of these terminals out with it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to figure out what goes where. So a lot of these cables are going to stay with this wire, and it's going to go into the new one. Okay. Then there's a couple down here, and I was wondering, there was no C28 diagram, but that's okay. I figured if you look at the A45 wiring diagram, it's 2 pages because it's a 40 pin. So it shows the whole thing here. Okay. So on the C28, you're going to go, grab wire 30, let's see, 24 through 30, and those are going to go into the C28 connector. So those are all on the bottom here. Okay, so those are going to be on the bottom, and we're going to grab all these out of the bottom here. Now, to look at this, if you look at the top, actually, I'm sorry, these are where it's going to be. Up here on the top, that's going to be number 1. This is going to be number 20. Number 1, number 20. This one's going to be 21, and this is going to be 40 down here in the corner. So left to right with the tab on the top. Okay, so it should be pretty easy to understand, and it's going to be you can even see it better in this picture here. If you want to see, they have it 1 through 20. It's 20 listed over there, in the tab, as you can see, is right on the top there. So we're good. So we're going to figure out which ones go to this by this wiring diagram, and on the bottom we're going to take wires 24, which is going to be somewhere in here, through 30, and we're going to wire them into the C28 connector. So we can do that here shortly. So we can look at this. This one's going to be 21. Okay, that's going to be for the air servo, so that's going to go somewhere. 20, that's going to go into the, all the other ones are going to go back into the A45 that we connected here. So all these ones that don't say C28 are going to go back into here. So this 21 is going to go into 21 on here. Okay, 22 going to go 22 on here. This one, third one here, so that's 21, 21, 22, 23. Okay, that's going to be the front blower. Actually, it says it's red and white, but this one's purple. So these first 3 wires are going to go back into the A45 here. Okay, now we get to the next one, 24, which in this case is white, which is matches. The next one should be black, but it's actually purple. That's going to be 25. The next one's green, which doesn't match, but that's going to be, go to the C28. Next one. Next 2, and so we have 24, 25, 26, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Okay, so those are a little messed up there, but these ones here, you can see that. Those are the ones that are going to go to the C28. The rest of these, it says to remove, except for the very last one in 40, but there's no wire in that one, so that's a little odd. The other one has the wire in it, so I'm not sure. We're going to put a wire in there and wire it up to the A45 just as a safety precaution. But the rest of these, from 31 through 39, which is going to be the rest of these, we can remove. So I'm just going to tape those together and not cut them, just leave them the way they are, and we'll get those out of the way. So these we don't need. These are going to the A45, and these are going to the C28. So we'll do those up right now, because we can make that happen pretty easily from this, and then we'll make this into the A45. All these are going to go into the A45. Up top here, the first one, 20, is open. That's already open. There's no wire here. It says to remove this one. This one should be open. This one should be open. That's crazy. There's wires in there. So I don't know. So 16 is going to be air vent. 17 is an air vent. I'm sorry, 15. Then we're going to go on a list here. 14 we need. 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9, so we're going to need those. Are going to go to the A45. Then this one we're not going to use. So that one can get out of here. That'll go with these we're not using. And then we need to use 7 and 6. 7 and 6 we're going to use. That's going to go in the A45. And then 5, 4, 3. 5, 4, and 3 we are not going to use. These 3 we're not going to use. 5, 4, 3, and then 2 and 1 are air inlets, which are going to be wired up in there. So we'll do that. We'll make that happen. Okay. Oh, this is getting a little frustrating and a little confusing, because some of these should be open, some of them should be not, but I'm not sure how this is going. But I think if we just follow the pin diagram, we should be good. All right, after much worry about making sure I was doing the right thing, I actually contacted Jerry B, and he got back to me really quickly and kind of clarified some things for me. So when we're using the A45 plug out of the new climate control, it's going to go into this guy here, and it has to mirror that, meaning it's not the same, it's the opposite. So as this one is labeled 1 through 20, we're going to have to use this one when we label it 1 through 20 the opposite way. So this one's going to go standard right to left. This one's going to go left to right. So I've updated the workbook and made everything much more clear so I could follow it. And then for the C28 connector, which are going to go in the back, the pinch connector on the bottom here actually goes down. So we're going to do 1 through 12 and then 13 through 24. So we're actually going to use these 3 openings and then number 20, which is over here. So it's just the top and bottom 3, so 6 on there and then 1 more over here. And there's pictures that Jerry sent me that made it so much more clear. So this shouldn't take that long. So we're going to start wiring this up. And one thing I want to show you is how to cut these wires, because it's very important that you do it right. You don't need a mile long exposed wire. They're actually very, very minimal to get on these clips. All right, so I got a macro lens that hopefully will show this. This is the connector, and if you can see, there's a part on the end here that sticks up. That's going to go over the sheathing of the wire, and then there's another slot in there. If you can see, that crimps down on the wire you expose, so you can see how tiny that is. So I'm going to show you how much to cut that wire, and you'll show that it's very, very small. So hang on, let me do that. Actually, I cut it just a bit too long. You don't even need it that long. So it's going to be about that long. So when you put this on here, I have to hold it in the crimpers, but I'll kind of show you. It's going to sit in here like that, if that makes sense. You see the wire? And the wire is going to just be right inside that crimped area there. There we go, there we go. So the wire is just going to be right inside that crimped area. If you go too far, you're going to not crimp the wire. So that second one in the middle there, that's going to crimp down in the copper. So you see how if you can see it, how little bit goes past there. So let me crimp one and show you how it's done here. So you can see the different settings on the thing here. You're basically going to put it in the very first one on the bottom here, which is labeled C. And you're going to put it so the bottom of the connector is on the volcano looking thing there. And you're just going to put it in just far enough to crimp the back part, because you don't want to crimp both parts at the same time. So there we go. Alright, so you can see it's in there. And if you can see it, the little part that crimps the wire is not going to be crimped here. So we'll hold that in the crimpers. We'll put the wire in. Hopefully you can see this. I'll try to do it so you can see. It's kind of hard trying to do it in front of the camera here and get it right. So we'll feed the wire in there, and just prior to the end of the little ridge in there, I don't know if you can see it, there's no wire coming out. So now we'll just crimp it down, and that's good. And then for the second part, we're going to go into the D section here and do the same thing on the next one. And this one we can just crimp right over the top of it. You see it, it's in there, and we're just going to crimp it. Boom, and done. So now we have a good connector, and see how it's crimped right there. Should be good. That the wire is not the copper wire exposed is not crimped by the first connector, and the first connector is solely on the shielded part of the wire. So that's basically how you're going to do it, and it's going to look something like that. So that's how you're going to do a bunch of these. So I'm going to start doing this, and you just follow the pin diagram, and you should be able to do this too. Alright, so looks like this harness is complete. I had a really tough time getting these pins in here, and I discovered that on the crimping tool, you have to use the B setting down here to really crimp these little connectors down, these C28 connectors. You got to go all the way up and down, not the tip, but from anywhere that's crimped all the way back up. And I even went up the wire, and it seemed to go in there really easily. Unfortunately, by the time I figured that out, I'd left this off. So I'm going to use this sealant that they recommended to use. I'll put a link in the description. I tested it out on another connector here, and it's setting. So I don't know if you can see that. There's some clear silicone in there. It's supposed to be electrical grade, so it'll prevent this stuff from coming out. The next harness, so anyway, before we get to the next harness, so this one appears to be done. This should hook into the head unit, and these should hook into the factory A45 and the factory C28, something like that when we go out to the car. So we're going to try that a little later today, hopefully. But the next order of business is doing the M9, or the last connector. And there's a nice diagram that somebody came up with, and I'll post it in here. But it looks like these two plugs are all I need. We labeled those before, if you remember. You get a bunch from the M8 plug, and then one from the M5 plug. In the newer 2004, these two plugs, I believe, are now one plug. It might be a bigger M5 plug because the harness goes to that, and there is a connector for that. If we have a 2003, we can't use that. So there's a nice diagram over here of where these wires are, and then a diagram of where they go. Now, you have to put one wire out from the M9 to the A47 connector. So the A47 connector is that first connector on the back of the new climate control, goes right there. So you're going to put one in a spot 1, and I checked doing that on the pigtail connector. We're going to use the one that's in the car, so we don't need this. But I tried to see what it was. And you got to pry this little guy up here. All I did is stick this tool in there, and I managed to pry it up. And then I tested a wire. It went in like lickety split. So that's going to be super easy to do out in the car. So I have the M9 all wired up with that connector. That's coming out of spot 16 on the M9, and it's going to go into spot 1 on the A47 connector. So there wasn't one in there on this one. I have another one here that does actually have a cable in there. But anyway, this one doesn't, so I'm hoping mine doesn't. If not, then I'll just have to splice it out here. And unfortunately, there's no direct connectors to this M8 or M5 that anybody could find, and it's too late for me to worry about it now. I'm just going to cut it and wire it. So it should be fairly simple. I have the M9 connectors, and they go in really easy on this one. This is probably the easiest connector to deal with. So I'll do that today out in the car, and I'll film that and add it right after this, hopefully. So far, this hot wiring harness was a complete pain in the backside. A lot of trial and error, and I'm sure because I'm not an electrical engineer, I've never done this before. Hopefully it works. So we'll test that out hopefully later today as well, and we'll see if this little craziness is actually going to pay off. Otherwise, back to the drawing board. Here's our connector for our lower harness, and so this is going to go into the climate controls, and these are going to come out and go to your factory C28 and your factory A45. But to do this, this is what's coming out. So in essence, you'd be having this. That's not going to work. So what we need to do is we need to put this guy on here. And I can never remember which is female, which is male, or what they're called. I think this is female and this is male. I can't keep them straight. But anyway, you're going to need the one with these metal solder connectors on the back, and we're going to put those right in here. So the smooth side should match the smooth side to go in here nicely. And what I did is I had to score or cut off with a little X-Acto knife just these little parts here, because you have these little humps there. So we're going to put that in here, and it should click into place. If you get it level here. There we go. Well, it didn't click this time, but it's there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of shrink wrap. This is the 40mm stuff. I just happen to get white, not a big deal. You can get whatever color you want. because the other connector is going to go into here, the one coming from your car. So you want to just leave enough room. There's no connector on here that's going to hold it, so it's just going to be friction fit, but you don't want these two coming apart. So we're going to shrink that down with our heat gun, and hopefully it makes it really nice here. There we go. And there's lots of colors. You can get whatever color you want. I just happen to take white. It's about $10, and I'll link the description in the YouTube video. So there you go. So you should be, I'm going to hit it up here a little bit so it shrinks a little more, maybe right there. There you go. And that should keep it all together here. There you go. And we'll let that cool and set that to the side, because that is effectively done. I just kneaded up the cables with a little electrical tape. Always tab your tape. That way you can always pull it off a lot easier and it's less gooey. But so we're going to set that to the side. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on the M9 connector. So I've already put 2 wires in here. So the pink one is going to go to the A47 connector in pinhole number 1. We talked about that earlier. That should go in there nice and easy with an M9 connector, which is the same you're going to use on here. So they look a little more square, and I got these from DigiKey, and I'll link to everything in the description, and it'll have it on the workbook that I did. So this is going to be wire number 17, we're going to call that, and then this is number 16 here. And I've already put the connector on here, so we're gonna feed that in to spot number 2. So remember, the top right is going to be 1, next one over is 2, and I did a little trick where I just took a Sharpie and blacked the holes that we need to use. That way we don't make a mistake, and it's easier to count when you get in there. So the pink wires go in the A47. This one and the number 16 and 17, which are going to be in spot 1 on this M9 connector, are going to go, I believe, to a connection under the passenger seat. So we'll go look that up and show that once we do that. I got to pull that off, the seat off anyhow, because we're doing a GRMS radio install tomorrow on my car. So I might do a video on that. I'm also going to install the Ohana Rig Supply mounting bracket that goes above the radio once I put all this stuff back in and put the new brackets in. You can't use the existing brackets from the DVD. You have to get the new brackets that hold the non-nav controls. They are different. You can maybe make the original ones work, but you can only get like 1 screw in there, and it doesn't make it very stable. These ones will completely replace the ones you got in your Land Cruiser LX in America, and then you can have, I have 2 sets of them here. I have a right-hand drive and a left-hand drive system. I believe they're the same. I talked to Shahab, and he said they're the same, so we'll go take a look at those a little later once we get ready for that install. But anyhow, right now we're just going to push this guy into the number 2 opening here. And it should slide in pretty good, and it only goes in one way. If you have it the wrong way, it's not going to let you. Don't force it. It should go in there pretty smoothly. So that one's, I'm going to flip it, and it should go in here pretty smoothly. And it, of course, because there it goes. Okay, so you'll be able to push it quite a bit, and you see there's still a little bit of the silver. So I just take, this is the best pair of pliers I think I own. They're so simple. I bought them at Harbor Freight for a couple bucks, and I use it for everything. And these are great for just grabbing right on the top of the metal part and just pushing down. And then if you get real low, then you can just grab right above it and just tilt it. And there, you didn't hear it, but I heard a little click in there, so that means it's not coming out. So it's sturdy in there. All these should be sturdy in there. So those are your 3 long cables you're going to have: a pink one and 2 yellow ones. And I'm just following what the guidance that was online for the colors. It doesn't really matter, you can use any color. I'm just trying to keep it similar. So we're gonna wrap this up, and I have it labeled 16. I have a nice little label maker called a Nimbot, and I'll link to that as well because it's very handy. The labels come on and off very easy if you got to remove them rather than putting tape and fooling around with the stickiness of tape. These actually, I've slid these on and off a bunch of times when I've had to make corrections to some of the wiring that I've done. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a little piece of tape and just get these coiled up so they're not just flapping around causing us problems. Oh, there goes the wire. I guess I should have cut it first, but whatever. All right, so very important. Here's a little trick I learned from a mentor when I was working in the field business. Always tab your tape. That way you can always unroll it if you need to undo it, which we will be for this. So let's wrap this back up again. And also never fight the way the cord wants to ravel. So we're just going to wrap that up. And we're going to just tape it up here real quick with our tape we've already tabbed. Don't need a ton of it, just a little bit to keep it sturdy. And then you have your tab here, so you can pull it off real easy. So what we're going to do, remember the tab is on the top for the M9. So it's going to be 1 and 2 are already done. And then I've cut my other, you're going to need another, so you have 3 wires in there right now, you need another 8 wires. And I'm just following the color coding, but I've noticed that the wires don't necessarily match inside your car. I've gotten these 2 wiring harnesses from these 2 different Land Cruisers from overseas, and the wiring colors are completely different, so I'm not trusting that these are going to be the wires. However, I'm going to make the wires pretty much the same, except for these 2 are obviously yellow. So I do have a blue, I have a green, and then instead of white and green for this one, I just put some black tape around it, and it's going to be black and green, just so I know the difference. And then you have your pink down here, solid black over here in number 8. Number 14 is just going to be red. It says red and green, but I'm just going to use red. And then you're going to get black, gray, and blue down here. So we're going to put those different colors in, and we'll see what we do with that. This one's going to be white. This one's going to be gray. And then I think I have, yeah, so this is going to, one of them is going to be blue. There's 2 blue here. One I put some tape on, so it's going to be black and blue, which will probably be down here. So anyway, that's how I'm doing it. If you have different colors of wires, you certainly can do whatever color you want. It doesn't really matter, but we've got to make a little bit of a wire from here so you have some to wire in to the stock system. We have to actually cut those wires on the 2003 Land Cruiser. We aren't lucky enough to have a proper connector. If someone finds the connectors for the M5 and M8, it makes it way easier. You just got to make those connectors. It's all good, but in this case, I am unable to find them, and there's no listing in the documents listed on I Hate Mud. So we're just going to use wires. We're going to make some cuts, unfortunately. Nothing we can't recover from. I know it's a little scary making cuts in your factory wiring harness, but at the end of the day, you're not using those wires for this, only for this anyhow, so it's not really going to mess anything up. And as long as you cut them back from the connector, so when we go out there, we're not going to cut right at the connector, because then we're screwed if we ever need to rewire this or want to put this stack back in, or we're doing a restore. You're going to cut back a little bit. That way there's a little bit here we could eventually put a connector on if we ever wanted to use it again. That way we can just take this part and come off and do that. We saw that out in the connector when they wired up the TASE system in my car, if you were watching the video earlier. So we're going to cut a little above. We don't want to cut right here because that's just going to make it ineffective. So anyway, I'm going to put the connectors on the end of these and wire up the M9 so we can go out to the car and just get busy doing that. It shouldn't be too long. There's only 8 wires. We're going to have to use butt connectors and make some cuts, and we're just going to take our time. We're going to label everything. I'll bring my label gun out there, and I'll show you how that works, and that way you can pull those labels off very easily rather than tape. It just makes it real easy to do. So anyway, stick with me. We'll be out in the car in a few minutes. Let me get this done, and we'll be back. All right, after a little fooling around here, I got it done. Wouldn't you know it, the last one that I put in, the connector came out right when I was putting it in, and yeah, I was like, oh man, got this whole harness done and all wired up, and the last one's going to be a problem and give me going to ruin this whole thing. I'll have to start completely over. Luckily, I was able to pop the connector out and rewire it and put the new one in, so it should be good to go. So we have this connector pre-wired. All these wires are going to go into those things on the sheet that we're going to follow, and then we have our other connector wiring harness right here. So we are ready to head to the car, and hopefully we'll be successful in wiring this up. Cross your fingers. Okay, all you cats and kittens, I was a little disappointed yesterday that the wiring didn't work up, so I thought about it last night. I took a break And what I decided to do is, well, first thing I decided to do was try to take the original A45 pigtails I got and make that and wire these up like that. But again, it broke. I could wrap that and make that the one that goes into the car, but my dumbass cut some of these wires that need to be used, so that was off the table for now. So what I thought about doing is redoing these connectors, and I'm working on it right now. I wanted to show you what I did. So I took off this little piece in here that usually goes in here because it was really causing a problem getting these plugs deep enough. There was exposed connector up here, and I thought that they were probably touching. So I tried to shrink wrap a little bit, but it just made the problem worse, and the holes were harder to get into. So I took all that stuff off, and I took this thing off, and I was able to push these connectors in, and then with these two tools, seem to work. Just a little screwdriver that I happen to have with a flathead and a little pick tool. I was able to get them in mostly and then push them forward until they clicked into the bottom, and then just kind of bump them forward a little bit. I started the second connector here, and I got a couple in there so far. I think that's why he in the parts he recommends this 388 electronics grade silicone. It's like caulking around your windows, but this is made for electrical components. So I think what wasn't explicitly said in the instructions on I Hate Mud is to use this stuff to make sure these don't get pulled out, because when you have this little clip in there, that little white piece, this gets clicked down, and I think that locks these into place. But you know, you're working, if these guys that are putting these together for automotive people, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't really care if I'm wrong, this is my thought, is they're using a machine or something, or they're so good at it they can get this done. Me, I'm not that good, and you probably this is probably not your everyday job. So I took this completely out because that was causing a problem. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some of this silicone once I test this to make sure it works, because these connectors are now seated fully in there. They're in as far as they're gonna go. They aren't gonna go any further, and there's no exposed ends of connectors that I had before. So I think that might have been causing a short because they might have been touching, or it was just not making the surge. So now these are fully in here. The wire's actually in here. So there's no danger of them touching, which is the way it should be. But that little piece there just caused problems. So what I'm gonna do is, after I test this and make sure it's working, I'm probably gonna put some silicone right here to prevent these from falling out over time. I'm not gonna put it down here. My thought is, if I put it there and I ever wanna take these out or wire, I can't get it out. Right now I still have the ability to pull these wires out and change them if that ever happens. If I put it up here, I could probably scrape enough off to get that out. If I put it down here, it's going to get into everything. It's just going to be a mess. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to put a bead of it right across here just to make sure that these wires don't come out, and then I'll probably tape or something around here. So I've already done that. I haven't put the silicone seal on this on the C28 connector. But these pins are in as far as they're going to go, so hopefully that works. That doesn't actually use any of the blower functions, because what I had happen is the front AC blower was not working. And in that C28 connectors, you got a seat belt, you got two antennas up and down, which I don't need because the antenna's gone. I still wired it up in case I want to do it in the future. And then there's some two-wheel, four-wheel drive, and whatever a DEFC is. I don't know what the hell that is. And they're hazards. So if all those work, then I'm good with that. The front blower is actually down here in 23, and 21 and 22 are the air servos. So I'm guessing those are working or weren't working. So I'm currently putting these into this guy, and I've only got a couple of the plugs done so far. But I wanted to show you one, what we're doing here. So you got to kind of flip it upside down. The first one we're going to do here is the black, and luckily I labeled all these and still kept the labels on here. So 21 is going to be the first one on the second row, and remember I blacked all these out with the little marker, so I remember exactly where those were. And this one's actually reversed because this is going to go in into the connector, the other connector that clips on here, and then the factory harness is going to go on there. So this has to be a mirror image of this, so it's going to look like something like that. So those wires are going to be in a mirror image. So on 21 here, this is I'll show you on top if I can make it work. You want to see if you can see the copper wires that you crimp down on. You want those up in this case. So these are going to be up, and this is going to go in the very first position here. And try to push this down as far as you can go until you get the little box in there, and that's pretty good. So there's a little box right there. You can't really see it, but there's a ridge on that connector. So what you can do is you can take that flathead screwdriver and you can grip that little box and you can push it forward. See, it went all the way forward to the front there. And then you'll see the crimp where you crimp the wires. And then what I've been doing is just taking this little pick and going behind that crimp, and it just brings it forward like a fraction of a millimeter just to fully seat it. And that's it. It's in there. So once you get one in, you'll be able to go down the line and make sure that they're all the same length. And now that's in there. Those are in there tight. If I yanked on them, I could pull them out pretty easily. But right now they're friction fit in there and they're not going to come out unless you do some pulling, which, you know, when you go behind your dash and start, it might happen. So that's why I'm probably going to put the silicone once I test all this and make sure it works. But before I do that, I want to make sure everything's wired up properly and everything works, so I can, if I have to rearrange wires or I mess something up, I can pull that stuff out. So we'll do that at the very end. So that's what I'm going to continue on doing, just putting the rest of these wires into this one, and then we'll go out and we'll test it again, and hopefully this time we'll have some luck. We got 2 climate control units to test, so hopefully one of them works. The original one the left-hand drive one doesn't seem like it's working at all, so that might be a defective unit, which luckily for me I have 2 units to test. The right-hand drive, most of it worked. The only thing that wasn't working was the front blowers. Everything else lit up, so that tells me there's an issue with that one, and I'll address that later. But all right, so let's go on. I'll continue on putting these together, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the finished product, and then we'll go out and test it. Okay, we are out in the car, and before we can disconnect the battery, we need to remove the instrument cluster because we're going to tap a couple wires behind there. It's not too difficult. So I'll walk you through it. So first thing you need to do is get the steering wheel to go down, so we can just insert the key and it'll beep. So let's see. Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop out, we're going to take this little piece off here, which is pretty simple. You could probably pop it, but I have a pry tool. You're just going to pop it and it should come out pretty easily. I'm going to set this down so you can see it. There it goes, and there's one connector on the left side of the steering wheel and the little pinch connectors on the bottom. Just pull that out, set that to the side. I think the Lexus has some screws back there, but this one doesn't. So if you can see in here, on the left side there's a black screw and a silver screw. Like a gold or silver, there's one on each side over there as well. And if you can see them, there we go, it's a better shot. The outside one you need to remove. The inside one actually holds the connector in, so you're unscrewing the connector. So there's 2 screws on each side, so just be careful, because when you go to pop these back in, you have to retighten these and reseat the connector or your dash won't work. So let me take this out. So it looks like I put the windshield wiper, or the turn signal, had to push it all the way down to get access to this black screw over here. I'm trying real hard not to let these screws fall down and get lost up back in here, so. Get another hot day here in Northern California. That one was already loose. My mechanics have been in here trying to solve some issues. I think they got them, so we're just gonna pull that, and hopefully this should come out. Oh, and there's also 2 screws up here we got to get to, so hopefully I can get up and get those. All right, that one's coming out. That the cup holder. Try my pry tool. There it goes. It should come out now. Excellent. Now, don't pull the key out because your steering wheel will go up and it'll smash it. Make sure it's all the way out. There you go, and it's all the way down. Glad I just reinstalled those motors. Not sure if I didn't unscrew these all the way, because this is holding in the connector, so I wonder if those are still in there. It should pop out a lot easier than it is. Thank God that stopped finally. It feels free now. Be free, my jungle friends. All right, let's see if it comes out now. Yeah, there we go, I think. There we go. They finally, the connector has to fall free. So that I didn't just watch. I saw the other one fall. Hopefully this one will fall now too. It feels like it has. So this should still just come out of here now. Just got to get it over the key thing here. If we can do that without breaking it, that would be really nice. There, it's over that. Now it's just a matter of trying to get this thing out of here. It's down all the way, and it's out all the way. And it's free in the back of the connectors. So this should pop out of here, just wiggling it out of here. Wiggling, wiggle, 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 wiggle. There we go. Alrighty, mission success. Okay. So your dash is done. Not too hard, only 2 connectors. So this here is the connector we're going to use, and we're going to use, I forget which numbers, but it's on the paperwork here, but we're going to do that when it's on the left. So make sure that this goes back in these holes down here before you reinstall the dash, or like that, or you might have issues with your dash if the thing doesn't connect. But we're going to leave this one free right now because we're going to be playing with that one. So let me get set up, and we'll start wiring this thing up. One thing that I read in here is if you can see this guy here, the Toyota Gateway, apparently that's only required for the navigation. So we actually can pop that out and get some extra space back in here. We won't use any of those wires. We'll just push the cabling back out of the way and take that out. We'll save it in case we have some problems, but we can remove it right now and gain some space for when we put our stereo in. So we're gonna do that right now. That is on there. There we go. Use your man muscles, dude. We got it. Inanimate objects will not defeat us. You can quote that. That's just a single screw and a pinch connector. Now, one thing I did buy, which I think is really cool, not that you really need it too much, but if I can find it in my mess here, is this little pliers here. And what it is, if you can't get your hands on the pinch connectors, you can use this to get it. I typically don't have too many issues, but I have had some before where they're very difficult. So we'll see how difficult this one is and see if we get a demo here. If not, we'll use it later on. Yep, that one's pretty difficult. Let's give it a shot. They got a flat part on the top, which goes on the top, and then the little prong in the bottom goes in the pinch connector. So pretty simple if you can get it to stick. That doesn't want to work, and I don't want to destroy it. Epic fail, dude. There we go. Just pulled it out with the hand. So this little Toyota Gateway, I don't think you're going to need it anymore. I believe it's for the navigation, and we're doing away with that, so we can get rid of that piece of crap. All right, so now we have this is the cable. We can just tuck this back up in here somewhere out of the way. We don't need that anymore. Just get that out of there. So again, we're just going to be focusing on this instrument cluster. Now remember, we labeled all this stuff, and we don't really need anything except for this guy, which is our C28. Just going to go in there. We're going to take some wires off the M5 and M8, those two there. These ones we're not even going to play with. Actually, this one's going to be the, oh no, here it is, the A47. We are going to put one in this first connector here. That's the pink wire off the M9, and then these M7 and 6 we're not even going to use. So we're just going to do this, and then we're going to run a couple wires over here, and we want to clip in, according to the paperwork, it's going to be the left one, but the gray side. So there's a white, if you can see it, there's a white and a gray. So we're going to use the gray side, and we're going to come down 3 from the top. That's where wire number 17 is going to go in the 4th one down, and wire number 16 is going to go in the 5th one down. So we just need to keep those straight. Remember, those are the yellow wires coming off the M9, so we just got to go up and over the dash. That should be pretty easy. We got plenty of cable to do that. I originally thought this was under the seat, but I just reread everything, and it's actually right here where we're looking behind the instrument cluster. Okay, so what I've done is, here's the connector that we need. Remember, we need to take the 2 spots, and I blacked those out so I have an idea of what ones. So I flipped it over, looked in the back, and separated these 2 wires and just put a little Sharpie marker on it. Now, we put the dash back in. I can't splice them right here because this thing needs to go flat down in here. It's going to be, and there's no way that that's going to work. So what I did is I just undid this tape, and it's super sticky because it's old tape. So I just undid the tape up there, all the way up there, and you could theoretically keep going, but I think this is going to be a good workspace. My plan is to kind of shove it back in here and have the wires go over there. So that's the plan right now. So let me see how we get that done. All right, so I've put the 16 and 17 wires down there. Those are 2 yellow wires. off the M9. The nice thing about these little Nimbot labels is they stick together, but they don't really stick to your wire too well, so you can slide them back. So I'm gonna slide them back here to about just past where I think I want to cut. So I left enough room to pull out the instrument cluster, so I left some slack back there, and then just pulled these cables about where I want them to be, to give it just enough slack to pull this out, and then probably cut them right in there and splice right in here somewhere. So I'm going to cut those cables right about there, leave a little extra just in case, and remember to slide your labels back. I've slid mine back on both cables already, so we're good to go. There we go. So that's some extra wire we'll get out of the way. So now we still have them labeled 16 and 17 here, which is good. So I'm going to strip the ends of these wires, and we'll probably use these little, we'll have to strip a little bit of these, and then we'll join them together. I don't want to get a soldering gun out here. I don't trust myself with that. If you're a solder master, then be my guest. I'm going to use these little blue pinch clips. I'm going to strip a little wire and then clip them in here, and then probably tape over it to make sure it works. All right, so the wire's cut. What I want to show you is what I'm going to do is I'm going to label these wires that I need to splice 16 and 17. So this is a little guy. It's called Nimbot. It's just a little guy that it's a portable printer, and it does some cool shit. So you just got to double tap what you want to change. So I'm just going to change that to 16, and double tap that one, change that to 16, and hit done, and print, and it should pop out right there. Excellent. We're going to do that for 17. And then we're going to label the wires, and I found something pretty cool that might make it easier for you guys as well. I happen to have some connectors, some spade connectors, and they will work brilliantly for this, I think. So as soon as I'm done with this, I will show you. So this is 17, print, and we're labeled up there, which is great. So that's just an app. I think it's about 30 bucks. I'll link to it in the description. So we're going to be using these connectors, which they start out like this, okay? What I had is these little spade connectors here. These little guys are just crimp spade connectors, okay? And when you pinch this down, the blue wire connector, they actually will fit in here. There's a little piece of metal in there that's all connected. So the end product looks something like that. So this will be on the car, the factory wire. This will be coming from either 16 or 17, or oops, sorry, get it in focus there, bud. This little spade connector will be hooked to the end of either 16 or 17. So we'll get that handled. I'll get that all wired up and show you the finished product. So I got the spade connectors put on here. I went a little overboard with shrink wrap. I love some shrink wrap. I just want to make sure these don't come loose over time. So in here, what you're going to do is, you see I got the first one done. What I did is I just took the wire strippers on this one and just spread the wire a little bit, and then you clamp that down, and then we should be able to plug that spade connector in here, and then I'm just going to tape it up just to make sure it stays, although the friction is pretty tight in there. So I'll show you. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but it's hard for me to hold this camera. I got a little DJI Osmo here, and it has a tripod, but it's too far away. So I'll try to zoom in, see if you can do that, and we'll go from there, and hopefully I can show you. All right, so we're just going to take our wire strippers and make sure you don't get too small. If you want to start a little bigger, that's fine. That one doesn't work. You go to the next one. Don't make sure you don't get it in the middle, because you don't want to cut it. That would be bad. So this one looks like it's good. You just pull a little bit. Nope, you got to go to the next one. And just really ensure you got it in the valley and not in the cutter area, because that would really suck if you cut your wire for your thing. There we go. There it is. Nope. Got a little bit of wire exposed right there. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Let's see if I can pull the sheeting back. Yeah, it's going to be enough. Okay, so you're just going to take this little connector, and it's got a little ridge in there. I'll link to these connectors. This is the smallest one. You want to put the bare wire right between there and close it down. And then close it till it locks. There, both of those are done. So now we can take these two ends with the spade connectors. Remember, that's why we label it 16. This one's 16. We're gonna hook it into number 16, which is right here, the one I just did. I'm gonna put some tape on that as well. Of course, this one wants to really be a pain in my backside. There we go, goes in. Now we'll take the other one, which is 17 here. Remember, we labeled it 17, it's gonna go into 17 here. Everything matches. There it goes. All right, so both of those are done. I'm just gonna tape each one up, make sure we don't get any, you know, when they go together, they don't short each other out. And those should allow us to push those back in there and still have plenty of room, and we'll just pull this slack over. Should be good. All right, so we've pushed this all back. I taped this all up. Remember, tab your tape. I taped all those connectors up, pushed it back to where it's kind of back in here. Left the labels here in case we ever need that again. We're not hunting for it. I'm just gonna neat those cables up, but remember, we gotta put this guy back in this hole back here because that's the connector. So we need to line that up just like we've lined up this guy right there. You have to do the same thing for this side. So we'll put that back, and then we'll put that back, put the dash back together. So let's set the camera down, work on this, and you can watch from behind here. There we go. That's in there. That's it there. Put one piece of tape just to secure this. Again, we're tabbing our tape. Can easily undo it then later. There we go. That just secures that out of the way. This will push back there. This will push back there. All good. That looks good. That should be no problem putting this dash back together now. So we're gonna do that. Here's our dash piece. And I think because we took the battery out, it should be out all the way. If not, we'll have to go put the battery back in, but hopefully I can get this guy back in here. I think it went back when we turn the power off because it's pretty tight in here right now, so let me go check. All right, so yeah, it had gone out and up a little bit, so hopefully we have just enough room to get in here. Be careful, I just scratched my friggin' dash up right now. That was genius. Try to get this guy in here without breaking anything. So we want to redo these connectors here and get those in, hopefully. Get them to bite and just pull this back in, these connectors back in. That one I can feel has bit. The one on the right has not yet. What we'll do is we'll put these top screws up here first. We got these two screws up here. because of the daylight, it's really hard to see if those are back in place or not. I'm guessing they should be. It only goes in one way. Feels like it's seated properly, so let's see if we can get one of these in here. Oh no. Alright, so I lost one of the screws down below here. I just shook the panel and luckily it fell out. So we'll try to get the other one up here. They go up pretty straight up. So if you can figure out the hole, this one seems to have taken. And a little bit of an angle, but mostly up. Probably about an 80-degree angle, but I'm sure some trolls out there going, no, it's at 87.5. I don't give a shit. So the thing goes back in here, okay? All right, so that's done. Let's try to get this side pushed in. Get that instrument panel back. Those are in. Now we can put this piece back on. This is going to be the one with the dimmer, and that should, don't forget to put the, there's one little pinch clip back here. It needs to go into the dimmer, back of the dimmer switch here. Pinch clips on the bottom should match up pretty easily. Pop it back in. And then we're just going to pop that right back in there. Just hung up on the edge of the key thing here. Let's, there we go. Just a little pick tool. We can probably, there we go. There we go. And it's back in. And unfortunately, that has to go on the back side, so I kind of screwed that up. Just pop that off again. These little ridges need to go behind there. I thought I knew better, but it turns out that's never the case. There we go. All right. That actually, those ridges go back behind there. Holds that in very nicely. There we go. All right, good to go. And this little piece, the little key ring slot will go right back on there. Okay. Good to go. All right, so that part is done. That is probably the most difficult part of this whole thing now, because the rest of it is mostly plug and play, except for on the end of this M9 cable. It's going to be the M9 connector. Or, I'm sorry, A45 connector, which I already have in the thing up there, and that's going to go into the back of A47. Double check that. Yep, pink goes into A47 number 1. So let's find A47. We found it right here. Clip up. There's an empty spot right there where it needs to go. So that's good to go. Shouldn't be a problem. It is hot out here today. So the rest of these cables that's easy. The rest of these cables we gotta figure out and splice off of the M5 and M8 right here. So we're gonna have to figure those guys out. I'll have to peel back the tape on this one and locate those wires. Looks like one's already cut. That's the one on the bottom, which we don't need. So that's, yeah, so that's just open. Not sure what that was, but we don't need that one. The only one from the, oh, this is M8, yes we do. That one is number 4, and that's gonna go to the blue up top here. Sorry, that's gonna go in the blue lower one here. So this one will be the first one we connect here with some butt connectors. It's pretty small wires. They're a little smaller than these guys, so I hope they'll hold. I'm gonna shrink wrap over them and hopefully that will hold, but we'll get those wired up. Just follow the diagram and we'll be back. Okay, at long last, we've got it all wired up here. So all these cables are good. That's the new M9. We've got the one cable going into the A47, and we've got the 2 cables going behind to the instrument cluster behind, and we've had to hardwire all this stuff up. I use these shrink butt connectors that shrink when you add some heat to them, and I put a little piece of shrink tubing underneath because the wire was too skinny for it, so it made it just wide enough for it to get a good seal. Helps just, I'm not worried about water, it's more about just them wires coming loose. So we've got that. Got that wiring harness done. This little thing caused so much problems, just so difficult. Learned a lot. You're gonna get frustrated like I am. Also, don't do a video while you're doing this because you got to take like 18 takes because things go. I was doing a good take right before this and the camera fell off over, so that was great. But we've got the electrical caulking in here, all these places here, so hopefully these wires don't come out. They should all be in here correctly. Double checked and triple checked everything. So gonna hook this into the A5 here. I'm sorry, the A45. Okay, C28. And we got it. We're gonna hook this into the back. Where's our M9 for up top here? That we're gonna get that one out of the way. None of these we need. All right, and then mounted up everything on the brackets. You need the new brackets, so hopefully they put the right ones. I found out that I think he sent me the 98 to 2002 brackets instead of the 2003 and beyond brackets. But happy accident, this bottom part where the climate control is, I took my tape deck off and it has the exact same face and it fits right in here. So that was in really good condition, so I decided to use that. So I have 3 extra face pieces now, which is pretty nice. So we are gonna hook this up and hopefully turn on the car and everything should work, finally. So hooking in that M9 up here. Good, that one in. A47, A46. That's all in there. That's in there. Last one is the A45. That's in there. All right. Moment of truth. All right, let's see if I can lift this up and show you. Looks like the top part works here. It's in centigrade, but that's fine. You hear different modes down here. See if we got problem. There we go. All right, so we weren't getting front fans, but it works now. That's awesome. And this is actually it's weird because it was in Celsius before, so I'll have to figure that out later. But anyway, let's see if it starts blowing cold here. Yep, starting to get cold. Love that. The rear button comes on. I got to replace that button probably, and that's going to be the rear defroster back there, and that comes on. So everything works. Hallelujah, baby. Hallelujah. So that is really cool. The AC is working well. Looks like these buttons are a little old, so I'll have to replace that. The guy online showed me how to do that. Tomorrow I'm getting my head unit put in here. I'm going on a trip this weekend, so hopefully this will be all set. I'm so stoked that this works. And yeah, so there it is, boys and girls. All right, so I got had the climate control installed. You saw that it worked. Now I went over to the stereo shop. They cleaned up all that mess. They had rewired one of the wires over to the speaker in the door over here. The system sounds friggin' amazing. So this is a brand new Kenwood head unit, bigger screen, love it. I was driving around and it was just amazing how it looked. The problem is you can see something's kind of messed up here, right? These don't match. And that's a problem because this is a right-hand drive and we have a left-hand drive car, so the connectors for these side panels are reversed. So the guy at the stereo shop asked me if, you know, he wanted to cut them and make them. I said no. So what I did is I just went to eBay and ordered the right-hand side drive version of these. So I'll have those as a backup. Now I replaced all the little buttons, the rubber nipples behind here, and these buttons now feel way more sturdy and have a better feedback than the other ones. So I'm going to put this in here. This is the left-hand drive, so this stuff should work hooked into these sides. They should be on the right side, so that will be good. Otherwise, if you've liked this video, I know it's been kind of long and I've been long-winded, but I think it's important to point all this stuff out, especially for those folks like me who don't know what they're doing with this stuff. So anyway, I'm going to swap all this out. We'll come back and we'll show you, see if it works, and then we'll bid you adieu. So thanks for staying with me this far. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Love to hear your feedback. Okay, everything is back and installed. The climate control is working just fine. You can turn it on, turn it off, do everything you need to do, which is very nice. Their buttons apparently were not good, so that little nipple replacement seemed to do the trick. Excellent. The surround is on here, the little pieces on the side here. It was a bear trying to get all these wires back in here, and they ended up breaking that up here, so I took a little JB weld and fixed it, so hopefully it'll be dry in the morning. So NAV delete, completely successful. Left-hand drive version in here, right-hand drive as a reserve. Bought right-hand drive panels on the way from eBay. Also bought new right-hand drive ones because this one is broken, and they the stereo shop broke this plastic up here. It just is what it is. These are 23-year-old. They're not made to be taken out and put back in so many times, but it's salvageable. So I have some extra pieces inside. Luckily I have another set, so it looks like this is good to go. So if you enjoyed this video, I appreciate you paying attention this long. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them, and hopefully this demystified this whole thing so you too can do the NAV delete on your 100 series Land Cruiser. Well, that's all from the Sandy 100 NAV delete video. Hopefully you try this out and it works for you as well as it worked for me. Take care and good luck with your install.